Audrey, I can't believe you said you have a cold. That was beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, with our invocation, we're done here.
Thank you. May you bow your heads, please. Loving and merciful God, bless all those gathered here today. As we come together as Rotarians in friendship and fellowship, thank you for the blessings of our individual and collective God-given gifts. Place in our hearts the desire to make a difference in our communities, with our country, to our families, and to the many cultures and people worldwide. As Rotarians, please give us the desire to walk the walk as we confess to put others above self. Give us balance in times of distraction and uncertainty. Help us move towards our goals with determination and always with an abundant sense of humor. Thank you for the food in a world where many know hunger, for our faith in a world where many know fear, for friends in a world where many know only loneliness. Please bless this food we are about to receive and those hands that prepared it. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you, Bethany. And now to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests, Blake Buchanan. And Blake, while you're coming up here, I would like to take just a few minutes, just before I give the microphone over to Blake, to respond quickly to some comments made at our meeting last week. Yes, normally we do choose to avoid hosting candidates running for office and choose only the office holders so they can speak from that perspective. But last week we had a unique opportunity where everyone running, all four candidates running for the at-large seat of the Columbia City Council agreed to be present. And they were all here, everyone represented. We had an outside moderator, Chris Trainer, who made sure that everybody got the same amount of time, no preferential treatment. The candidates themselves, all four of them, were very respectful of their time and of others. And I really think that our goal was accomplished, and that was to educate you about the issues, about the people, so that you could make an informed vote at the polls. So I hope that you appreciated that. Yes, it was a departure, but it was done with all good reasons, and I hope that you benefited. Now, one other issue that really directly affects Blake and those introducing visiting Rotarians. We had two other people that attended last week's meeting. One said that she was a visiting Rotarian. The other said she was a guest of a member of this club. Neither was true. And somehow, they both managed to get the microphone. And politics, they were each candidates, one running for school board, the other for another city council. They politicked, promoting themselves as candidates for their different positions. This was totally inappropriate, audacious, in my opinion, and totally against our policy. And so, as painful as it was to realize that we were really at fault because we weren't prepared to handle, I think we learned a lesson. And so I have had a long talk with the desk out front. They're ready. And I will tell you that all visiting Rotarians are introduced from this podium. And they are not allowed to speak unless they ask for prior approval from me or whoever is the president to talk about their clubs selling onions or whatever. The other one that said she was a guest, like I said, no one claimed her. And I'm not sure how she got the microphone. It wasn't recorded, so we don't know. But when you have a guest, you sign them in at the front desk, and you introduce them. The guest is never given the microphone, only our member. So in the future, with the election season heating up, and it's only going to get worse, I want us to be prepared to handle this situation, because the worst thing was, it took away 10 minutes from our panel's time. And that was a shame, because they were not able to answer questions from you. So, yes?
Would you please, if you have them, give us the names of those people so that on election day, we can remember?
Do you really want that? I can. The one running for school board was Ashley Wilkerson. And the one running for the city council, I forgot what district, but not the same as these guys that are at large. Her name was Catherine Fleming Bruce, I think it was. And I hate it. And as our district governor said, you know, there's nothing we can do at this point except not vote for them. So, do you? Oh, was there another question? Ann, I'm sorry.
This is a not a question, it's a statement. That whether we're hearing or not, when we're asking questions, when we get the microphone, if we could all hold it to let's ask a question, not let me impress you with what I know before I ask the question. Okay? Because we got folks that will want to expound on things, just ask the question.
Right. Okay, well, sorry that happened, guys, but we are older and wiser, and nobody loves this club more than I do. So we won't let it happen again. And Alfred.
So I feel like part of that was my fault, because I just let her have the mic, and somebody said, yeah, give her the mic, she wants to speak, so I apologize for that. Not doing a better job of that last week. I was asked to fill in today at last minute to do this, and they did ask me to sing for Aubrey. I said, no, thank you. Probably a good idea, even if she is forced, but she did a great job. We have no visiting Rotarians today, as far as I was told, no visiting Rotarians. So if you have a guest, if you brought a guest, would you please stand and introduce them, please?
Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce to you Dave Peoples. Dave is the director of the Clothing and Furniture Bank here at the Cooperative Ministry. Today's the Clothing Drive Day. There's a table up front that Dave will be helping you with. There's a U-Haul that we're hoping to pack full of clothes. And also, there are some donation receipts on the table for you to take with you. You can put in the value of the clothes that you donated today, and there are also brochures. So thank you so much, and Dave's going to join us for lunch.
Good afternoon. I'm Henry Baskins. I'm with the Columbia Chamber, and with me today is my guest. Dr. Hersey is, Erica Hersey is the principal of Laura Richland High School. She's also participating in a program that probably some more of you have been talking to Kay Shaw about. It's an executive leadership program where leaders in the community are asked to shadow other leaders in the community so that the education community can find out what's going on in the business community. That's a partnership, I believe, Kay, between USC and Colonial Life. And this is my second year, but Kay, I don't know how many years it's been going. 4 years, thank you, Kay. Maybe I'll pass the microphone to Kay. But it has been very, very successful. And this is my second year, as I said, and I've had some really great people. This year is Richland School District 1, last year was Richland School District 2. So thank you, Kay, Colonial Life, and USC, and thanks, Dr. Hersey, for being here.
Good afternoon, Craig Witherspoon, Richland 1, and have as a guest, he's been here before, but Mr. Jamie Devine, who's the chair of the Richland 1 Board of Commissioners. Jamie Devine.
Thank you for all of our guests. We look forward to having you. Richard, thanks for handling the mic, and have a great day.
I didn't realize you had to stoop over to get to the microphone. I apologize. And I'm standing on my tiptoes. Okay, health and happiness, Russ Bell.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. I'm scared to do it. It makes do crazy things. This mic has a mind of its own. Before I do health and happiness, I would like to share with you today's message from the CART Committee. In 1983, President Reagan declared November National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. His goal was to help the public become more educated about the disease. At that time, Alzheimer's affected fewer than 2 million people in the United States. Now it is close to 6 million. Little did he know at that point that he would die of Alzheimer's 21 years later. Each of us can do our part to address the problem of Alzheimer's. I don't see a blue bucket up here, but on every table I've seen a blue bucket. Put your silent money in the blue bucket. You can't put your coins, but silent money goes a little bit further. So if you could do that, hold up the blue bucket on your table, please. The CART Committee thanks you for all that you do in that regard. Okay, health and happiness. Today, there's a good bit of news. First of all, Andrew Clarkson reported that this past weekend was the 60th anniversary Midlands Regatta put on by the Columbia Sailing Club. That is actually the longest running regatta on Lake Murray. And this past weekend, 149 boats participated. So I would say that was a great success, Andrew. It just so happened, last time I did health and happiness, Hal Stevenson shared with me, and I shared with you, that his daughter Noelle's She-Ra was on Netflix. What channel is what I asked, but you can tell how old I am. His daughter Noelle, this begins the next season this week on Netflix of She-Ra. So congratulations, Hal. Beth Partlow shared with me that this past week her daughter-in-law just returned from a 1-year deployment in Afghanistan. Bob Crutchfield celebrated last Wednesday the birth of his 8th grandchild. And he said, thankfully it is a boy, the other 7 girls, so now they can carry on the Crutchfield name. And Michael Kahn reported that his 4th and final child was married this past weekend. He is poorer but happier. Okay, with regard to grandchildren and children, I overheard Kay Shaw, and I said, do you mind if I use this? She was telling Glenn Ward about a quote she heard from Mark Twain, and it is, why is it that how much smarter parents become when their children reach the age of 21? And just ponder that a moment. And that was not Kay's quote, that was Mark Twain, but she was sharing that with us. Many of you know I manage the Finley House down in 5 Points, and so every day I get tons of stories. So I'm going to share with you one situation that happened. A lady that lived with us, her name was Miss Feltner. She had lived there a long time, and she was, ever since she was a little girl, she had a hard time remembering people's names, and she usually kind of figured out how to smooth that over. Well, one day her daughter came by to visit her, and Miss Feltner's best friend in the building, her next door neighbor, was visiting, and they were seated in on a chair, and Miss Feltner looked at her best friend, whose name was Kathleen, and said, Mary, how are you doing today? And the daughter caught it, so she tried to very discreetly say, Mom, her name is Kathleen, it's not Mary. And Miss Feltner looked real puzzled and said, is that true? Is your name Kathleen? And the lady said, it is. And Miss Feltner just looked at her dead straight and said, when did you change it? So, again, maybe inhibitions would have prohibited that, very direct way to approach it, but She just went straight at it. I'll leave you with this quote. Be your best self. You never know who might be watching and who might be looking to you for inspiration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bryce. Just a few announcements. We already know about the clothing drive. Your items, it's got to have a table outside and seatbelt. You need to come another time and bring them. Salvation Army bell ringing. We need some day captains, as well as for you to sign up for certain slots. So, see Chase. I don't know whether he's here. I haven't seen him today. But anyway, the bell ringing does need some day captains, so contact him. And also a reminder, there will be no meeting next week, Veterans Day. And Siegels needs this for big operations, and so we're taking the day off. But I want you to think about the veterans, and what better way than Richard Balzer. I don't know if you want to say anything, or go ahead. Okay. This brief sponsorship that it goes to all the veteran cemeteries, nationally and state, and they put a wreath on the graves. And I think they're only $15. But you could go, Cynthia has put it on our website, newsletter, and also these forms out front. If you would like to sponsor a wreath, I don't think they start until December. What a wonderful way to honor those brave men and women that keep us safe and kept us safe. So, just a word to you. And,
Lisa,
yes.
at the risk of being rude, since we're not meeting here next week, would you mind if we recognize all of our veterans here?
Oh, absolutely. What a wonderful thing. I should have thought of that. All of our veterans, please stand. Thank you all so much for your service. It means so much to all of us, and you brave men and women, thank you. Since I skipped around to do the other, we're just up to introducing our speaker, our wonderful speaker, William Starrett.
Thank you. I'm honored to introduce our President and CEO of Columbia Chamber of Commerce, Carl Blackstone. He was a member of this Columbia Rotary about 17 years ago. I'm going to read just briefly because it can be a little bit more concise. So what his bio says is Government Relations Advisor for the clients of Cooper Dom Strategies, a subsidiary of Painsworth, Sinclair & Boyd. He assisted clients with legislative and governmental actions for the South Carolina General Assembly, South Carolina Governor's Office, and executive branch of the state of South Carolina. He also worked closely with the members of the staff of the South Carolina U.S. Congressional Delegation. Prior to joining Painsworth, Sinclair & Boyd, Carl also served as senior legislative advisor to South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford, where he was the governor's liaison to the South Carolina Senate and House of Representatives. Previously, Carl worked as the manager of the state government relations for the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce and district field manager for Mark Sanford, where he served in the U.S. House of Representatives. Carl is also an active member in community and attends the First Presbyterian Church. He currently serves as a board member of the National Association of Chambers of Commerce Executives. Locally, he serves on the Riverbanks Society Board of Directors. And Carl received his degree in Business Administration from the College of Charleston and is also a graduate of Leadership in South Carolina. He's married to Mary Addison, and he has 4 daughters, and they are in junior high and high school. He's the only man in the household, and he is currently sort of getting a go by growing his beard, so he's going to tell you a little bit about that. Let's welcome Carl Blackstone.
I don't want to be in heels all day. So I learned a lot in the intro this morning, or this afternoon, so if I say something wrong, it's the mic's fault, right? Thank y'all very much for having me. I really appreciate being back here. As William said, I was here in this club years ago, and I have a great fond memories of being in this club, so I always appreciate coming back. Mr. Crutchfield, you give me a little bit of hope that there's room for guys later on in my house. Right now, there are none. I have 4 girls, and so No Shave November is here, and they hate it. Absolutely hate it that I grow it out, and which makes me want to do it even more, quite frankly. So, I apologize that this is the look for today, but it is the month of November. But Mason, thank you for having me today. Thanks for the kind invitation. What I thought I'd do is just give a couple of highlights of things going on in Columbia, and then I'll take some questions and answers, if that's okay, because there's a lot to hit about Columbia right now, and I don't want to miss anything, but I'll hit the highlights, and then I'll take questions. First of all, let me just tell you, Columbia right now is really, it's a fabulous place to live, right? It's a fabulous place to raise a family. There's more going on in Columbia than, I've been in Columbia for 19 years, and it is really phenomenal seeing the growth that we're seeing, the resurgence, you want to call it a renaissance, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot going on in Columbia, which is exciting. We're also, putting it in perspective, I go down and drive around all the time and see new businesses pop up or see some renovations or a building or what have you, which is great. But also look at other cities. I travel quite frequently and look at the growth in other parts of South Carolina, North Carolina. I was in D.C. last week, and so also want to be a critic as well. I don't think it serves us well to just be Pollyannish and be a cheerleader. We also need to look at opportunities and some things that we may need to improve upon. So we'll hit some of those as well. But the good news is Columbia is growing. The population of the Midlands is growing. We can all tell because we haven't built any roads, and traffic is horrible, parking is horrible. Other words, the growing pains, right? These are growing pain symptoms, and so downtown is lots of growing pains, especially if you're trying to find a parking place at 5 o'clock at night, anywhere in the Vista or Main Street, which is a good thing to have. So, as a couple of stats for you, and now I'm going to sail through these, but one of the top, number 4 among the top 10 cities where millennials are moving. It's really kind of crazy that we've got notoriety. Now, a lot of those are the university students, but and the university is no doubt, let me just be clear, is driving growth in downtown Columbia. The growth is unprecedented. We've seen about 16,000 new kids over the last 18 years just in downtown Columbia, which makes up for a lot of the growth. But they're welcome here, and it's a great market to have. So what we're seeing in the growth is a lot of hospitality in retail to accommodate a lot more millennials. Bet you didn't know this, right? Number 5 on up-and-coming tech cities, which is kind of crazy. But again, a lot of this tech is fallout and residuals of our insurance technology marketplace here in town. It's really quite phenomenal the amount of jobs that center around insurance technology. Obviously Blue Cross and Aflac and Colonial and Duck Creek and Capgemini, and you name it, there are a ton of companies here, and they provide an excellent workforce, excellent paying jobs. We'd love to see more. But there's an undercurrent as well of young startup tech companies that are here that are really gaining traction right now. And to me, that's more exciting than any of the others, because 80% of tomorrow's jobs are going to come from industry already here. The elephant hunting that went on in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, where the big companies moving to town, that's not happening. Well, it'll be a slower pace now with the economy. So we really got to develop talent within. We've got to grow businesses within, and we have to have the business climate that gets us there. One of the reasons people love moving here is the affordability. Columbia really is special in that regard. It's got everything that you need for a capital city, a southern capital city. It's got livability is off the charts in every model that we can track. So people that are moving from elsewhere enjoy that piece of the pie here. They like living here. In fact, I had a great conversation with the president of Capgemini North America. It's across the daggum thing. He goes, I cannot recruit people to Columbia, South Carolina. Because I have a very challenging time recruiting people to Columbia, South Carolina. He goes, but once I get them here, I can't get them to leave. He says, we have job openings all over the world, and I can't get them to leave the Midlands to South Carolina, which is awesome. Now, we got to improve our marketing on the front end, but on the back end, that's exactly what we want to hear. People don't want to leave, so that's a good thing. But a large portion of that is affordability. One little hiccup we had this year was Ingenuity SC tracks about 6 different criteria every year for the Midlands, and has done so for the last 5 years. What you'll see when they release that in January is going to see we had a slight dip in our median household income this year. It's a small percentage, but that's not tracking right for us, and so we've got to figure out ways to improve that. That's a long-term issue. It's just more of an asterisk that we need to be very, very leery of. And part of that is we saw 4 headquartered companies leave Columbia last year within a 60-day time period. And to me, it was not all about the job losses there, because we did see some job losses, but it's a sign. And so this is one that we've got to really work hard to combat. But we lost Spirit Communications, we lost Scana, we lost Prisma, and we lost McNair Law Firm. All of those, again, they weren't significant job losses, but you had the senior management leave, or you had those decisions that once were made here in Columbia are now moved elsewhere. And that's a significant challenge for this economy, quite frankly, because if you think of decisions, if you are, as an owner of your business, you're thinking about investing here. But if you make decisions for communities outside that you're living in, you treat them differently, quite frankly. And so we lost institutional knowledge with some of the corporate executive offices leaving, and we also lost potential funding down the road, especially for our nonprofits that are here. We all it's a challenging time here in Columbia because we've lost some corporate presence, but we've also lost jobs. Since 2011, we've had a negative 2.6% of our jobs lost. That's the highest margin anywhere in South Carolina. We're the only urban market in South Carolina that's seen a negative job growth, which is concerning in this economy, because we're 11 straight years of economic growth, the longest economic expansion in our nation's history, and we've had a negative decline in jobs. So I don't want to harp on that, but I do want to say it's an asterisk that we need to look out for. I was looking at labor markets and literally where are we, and we get a bad rap, quite frankly, when we're trying to compare ourselves to Charleston and Greenville. And those they're easy to compare because they're within the borders of South Carolina, but quite frankly, those economies are so different. And we really need to compare ourselves to other southern capital cities. I think southern capital cities have more in common than us in Charleston, quite frankly. So you look at here, and this goes back a while, I think to 1950, I can't read that very well. But it just shows we've had a slower pattern. And if you think about, and I meant to acknowledge Jack Hupp here. Jack has seen this stuff for so many years. Columbia's market is somewhat, our highs are, this is going to be bad, but it's almost like an economy on Xanax, quite frankly. Our highs are never really high, our lows are never really low. We just are in this little sweet spot where we don't see tremendous volatility in our market. And that's because we have so much government here. We've got Fort Jackson that makes up 7,000 jobs. We've got the university that makes up a lot of jobs, state government, federal government. So we're insulated all around by our market, but we don't see the rapid growth after a recession. We don't see sharp declines as well. We'll see slow, gradual declines, but our upticks are very, very, very slow. So this is proof of that right there. But one of the things we've got to start looking at, quite frankly, is our job market for the future. Because right now we have a lot of students here at the university. We have 6 universities here in the Columbia region. So we don't we have plenty of opportunity to attract and retain talent, but we have not. And so, and for those that are trying to fill positions in Columbia, it's hard. It is really hard. Amazon's ramping up right now for their big Christmas, and they're going to hire probably 7,500 people out there, and they can't fill a lot of jobs. And that's horrible, but we're going to see some birth rate declines in the next few years that we really, really need to think about. And so for Kay and our educators in the room, back when we had the recession in 2007 to 2009, birth rates dropped. It's the largest single drop in birth rates since the Great Depression. And so if we have a hard time filling jobs now, wait till 2026, when all those kids that were born in 2007, 2009 start joining the workforce. So it's a concern because now's the time that we should start planning for our future and start thinking as business owners, how are we going to have the next employees come up? How are we going to train those folks? And so I think it's vital that we start thinking not only, quite frankly, we need to start thinking from a community-wide engagement. How do we teach our young people to be employable? How do we, the teachers and principals have plenty to do in getting them educated, but it's the responsibility of the business community to kind of tie those strings together to make sure they recognize what it takes and what do we need as a business community from our schools going forward. Because it's almost retraining parents as well. What we're looking at, Michelin does a great job of this. Michelin North America has Parents Night Out, and they bring parents onto their factory floor and say, bring your kid, but here's what a 2019, the year 2019, this is what a manufacturing facility looks like. It is not a cotton mill or a textile mill 45 years ago. I mean, it's high tech, it's clean environment, great paying jobs, but we've got to debunk the myth that every kid needs to go to a four-year college. One, they can't afford it, and two, we don't need it. Most of the jobs today will not require a four-year education. And so, but it's reprogramming parents as much as programming the kids today that there's a valid way to go and make a great living in Columbia. Let me just fast forward some of that stuff. But the bottom line is, with the lowering labor market, here are some things that could happen. It could, because after the Great Recession, we've seen a couple of things change. Retail markets have totally changed, as well as the way companies look and decide to relocate. If you see the growth patterns today, I mean, go to Atlanta, Nashville, Charlotte, DC, New York, Boston. These cities are just thriving right now. So companies are relocating to marketplaces that have employees. They are going to where there's a demand of jobs. They're not going to places, smaller markets, unless they can actually see a competitive atmosphere. And so we have to change as well. We've got to create a different marketplace. We've got to create, which is we're the second largest insurance technology marketplace in the country, behind Hartford. And so we're going to continue to maybe pick up some jobs there, but we also have to spread our wings a little bit and look at other opportunities to create momentum around a different industry cluster. So that's going to be huge. We're going to see a change in marketplace too. More technology, more efficiencies coming down the pipe are just going to make it that much more challenging, but where we have to be creative and we have to be find some specialties as we go forward. But one of the biggest impacts that we have with the lack of labor and lack of job growth is the tax issue in Columbia. And I spoke about this a couple of years ago, so I don't want to harp on it, but our tax situation is strenuous, quite frankly. We have the highest industrial taxes in the country. Our commercial tax rates are about 60% higher than Charleston and Greenville, which makes it very, very challenging to recruit new industry here. And so that's going to, it did not happen overnight. This didn't happen in the last decade. It has happened over a long period of time, and it's going to take us a long time to dig out of this. But it's going to take everybody coming to the table and figuring out the best solution. But with bonds being passed for Richland 2 last year, we're going to have some areas of the county that have 750 mils on a house. And commercial rates are going through the roof in some parts of the county. But we're not just competing with Charleston and Greenville and Raleigh and Atlanta. We're also competing with Lexington County and Kershaw County and everybody. And so it's about time. I think there's some traction in the next year to tackle Act 388. For those that are familiar with that, that's the state house. It's the legislation that allows property taxes to fund schools. And so we do a horrible job in South Carolina. That's editorialized a little bit, but we do not fund schools correctly, and it puts it all in the back of the business community, and we're all feeling it. And so we're going to see a large number of companies that are relocating out of Richland County to other markets just because the cost of doing business is that much cheaper. So, so tax rates are what's really causing our lack of job growth. And so until we can figure out how to solve that, but it's going to take a village to get the answer right. But back to where we are thinking differently, and one of the more exciting programs I think the Chamber has done in the last few years is we created a Midlands Youth Apprenticeship Program with Department of Commerce and actually Apprenticeship SC and Midlands Tech. We formed a partnership between the three of us to go into schools and find kids that actually want to learn about jobs. So we've created this program where they can align themselves with a company, and the company can hire them. And the Chamber has raised a considerable amount of money. Those kids can have a dual enrollment class. They go to work, go to high school in the morning, they go to work in the afternoon, they go to college in the afternoon as well, and they work about 10 hours a week. Spring break they work, summer they work, Christmas break they work. But it's a commitment for them. But after 2 years, they get 25 to 30 hours worth of credit. They get everything paid for, and they get a salary as well. So it's a way for us to get a pipeline of talent coming through, but also for the companies in the Midlands to really help these students out, let them see what a workplace is all about. Help them decide what type of career opportunities they want to go in. So we have a certified nurse assistant program, pharmacy tech program that folks at Nephron they can't get enough people. Nursing is always a shortage here. We've got IT programs, we've got accounting programs, mechatronic programs. And so we're working with the local school districts, and we want by next year to be with all in Fairfield, Richland, and Lexington school districts. So we're excited about that, but it's a way that, again, the knowledge that y'all have in your businesses could help the kids coming out of high school tomorrow. So it's again, a way to address some of these concerns. But let me show you, this is kind of cool. We do a big signing day program where we've made it such a big deal when athletes get signed to a college. So now we're doing a big promotion where they actually get to get some swag from a company, and they sign on, and we make a big deal out of it. But it's a huge opportunity for kids and their parents to celebrate that they're actually getting a job and learning from the business community. So let me boil it down to some of the top issues that we have going on right now in Columbia, and then I'll lead up to some questions. But I know I'm going to be asked about this, so I went on and threw it out there. But Bull Street has been going on for 5 years. We have a great opportunity there right now to create a new cluster, which I was talking about earlier, about how do we sell ourselves differently. And there's a proposal to move the med school out behind the VA, move that downtown to Columbia, and create a brand new building, a couple new buildings. The key there is to have a teaching hospital adjacent to the school itself. And so you don't have to worry about driving back and forth and trying to find a parking place at either campus. They're right across the street. But more importantly, the number of biotech companies and pharmaceutical tech companies that are looking for places to do research. And that could be a huge win for Columbia if we get some funding to get the new school built. That lease expires, by the way, in 2023. So it's not like we're moving. They've got to move. And but it would make more sense to me but also provide more of a return in Columbia if we can get that co-located to Prisma Health. In the same line of thought, there's going to be a big push in the next 6 to 8 months to double the size of the convention center. And I think that would be, there's great numbers that I've seen to show how viable it could be. Interestingly enough, we're one of the largest mid-market cities in the Southeast with one of the smallest convention centers. And it's a good business for us. If we want to see more, I think one of the highlights of last year was having the NCAAs actually come here to Columbia. Huge win for the hospitality industry. But we finally have some traction now we need some new hotels to accommodate athletic events. Unbelievably, we have a bunch of new hotels, but not full service hotels is what the market needs, where we could have conventions, meeting room space, and have all the meals accommodated for it. And so we had to get a waiver, just FYI, when we got the NCAAs. One of the waivers that we had to have, we did not have enough full service hotels. And so it's very unlikely that the NCAAs will come back unless we address some of these concerns, which is full service hotels, proximity to the event venue. So they don't like having teams stay all over Creation. They want them close by, and they don't like teams sharing hotels. And so we actually had to get 3 waivers just for that last time. So if we want to host again, we need to do something. If we're going to do it, let's tie it in with the convention center. And I know it was in the news that Ben Arnold's got some projects that he's looking at that are spectacular, that will absolutely change the vista. And the key there is you also bring in some taxable revenues, which is very much needed. Address the tax issue and touch the workforce. So those are the big 4 I think that we need to start really having a strategic thought about, getting a plan in place. Again, it's going to take a lot of us to come up with those solutions. Before I do want to run through Fort Jackson right quick, as y'all mentioned. Veterans Day is next Monday, and also the Veterans Day Parade is next Monday too. It's one of the few communities I know of that still have a Veterans Day Parade, which is awesome for them. So if you have to miss, since you're not having Rotary, you can go down to the parade as well. We are really blessed in the Midlands to have such an outstanding group of folks, not only at Fort Jackson, but McIntyre, Shaw, and down the road to Fort Gordon. We're seeing significant growth in all those places, quite frankly. This year, the Chamber was pleased that we nominated this community to win the Great American Defense Award, which is a designation that we received with 4 other cities in this country of the partnerships that we have throughout with USC and Fort Jackson and others in this community do so much. We were one of 5 communities around the country, but it was a huge opportunity for us to show off Columbia up in DC this last year, so it was a treat for us. So let's talk about Fort Jackson real quick. This has not made the papers. You heard it here first, but we've got about 200 new lieutenants to come and work with basic training. More drill sergeants on the way. You'll see some announcements, a couple new schools that are going to realign in the next year, which is awesome. We need that. Really excited to have Richland 2 was recognized last month as a Purple Star District by the Department of Education. Fort Jackson's feeder school is Richland 2, specifically Richland Northeast, and so they do a great job of transitioning kids that come to Fort Jackson, so we're appreciative of what they do. And we had to address some issues with Richland 2 last year, and they quickly appointed a couple of new employees to work directly with our military kids to make that transition easier, which is really awesome, and it seems to be going really well. I won't go into it, but I'll tell you this. McIntyre is a sleeper here in this community, but they do a phenomenal job. They're deployed all parts of the globe. I think they just shipped out to Syria. They've got our National Guard has got 11-month deployment looking over the capital city right now. We've got units on standby right now that govern the east coast of South Carolina for any attacks or any plane that does not look right, they get scrambled at least once a day. It really is impressive. Shaw Air Force Base, we see about 50% of the folks that actually are deployed at Fort Jackson, at Shaw Air Force Base actually live in Columbia. And so a big part of their market is or mission is to really better align themselves in Columbia. But they've seen significant growth, but those guys, they have over 50% of their troops deployed at any one time all over the world, protecting us. So, and then we got Fort Gordon. What's interestingly enough, Fort Gordon has grown from about 7,000 to 8,000 troops to over 21,000 troops recently. The U.S. government spending about $4 billion over 10 years, putting the Army Cyber Command unit in Augusta. If you've not driven to Augusta in the last couple of years, whew, if you want to see what $4 billion looks like, it's amazing. The number of jobs that they've created. And there's, President Caslin just went last week over to Fort Gordon to spend some time and look at what they're doing, seeing ways that they can partner with the University of South Carolina. I know NSA, National Security Agencies, moved an operation down there. Gordon, Georgia's State Bureau of Investigation Cyber Command is now based in Augusta, and our Department of Commerce has taken up and really looking hard at how we can, as a state, invest resources into the South Carolina side of the Savannah River to piggyback on what Fort Gordon is doing. So there's a lot of activity there and a lot of jobs that are not too far away. All right, I've run through a ton of things. I've just got a few minutes left. So I'm happy to take any questions anyone has. Yes, sir.
So if the medical school moves away from the Veterans Hospital, who's going to be looking for the leftover veterans that are going to be stuck there in the whole city?
So the VA is not going anywhere. They actually want the land back, quite frankly. So the lease expires in 2023. There's 2 leases. But the property, they want the land, to answer the question. They're not upset. They're actually, yeah, they want to grow a little bit. So they'll still function all together in just those 2. They have 2 buildings that they lease. Those will be hopefully downtown. And the General Assembly did appropriate a little bit of money last year to start that process and get some architectural drawings going. But it's it could happen in the next 3 years. Okay.
You mentioned expanding the convention center and new growth of all-service hotels or motels in the area. How do you plan on doing that without causing issues with the reason people move here in the first place and the low cost to live here? Because when you gentrify a city, it becomes expensive.
Got it. So the key for me, and this is the current plan that the city has, along with Ben Arnold's plan to put some rooms down by the convention center, would be right at the convention center on land that's not currently developed. So I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but what he's looking at is one hotel is actually going to start in April. That would be a smaller boutique hotel, but attached right at the convention center. And then 2 additional hotels if the convention center is made, but it will all be connected, all tied into one system. So one reservation system, one management company for 3 different brands, but it would all be adjacent to the convention center. So we're not looking at, the key would be to have it right where the facilities are, because then you have walkability through everything in downtown Columbia. The restaurants are there. We're not looking for folks to, yeah, these would just be, we would actually get other folks from outside to help subsidize our lifestyle here in Columbia. But we would be if we double the size of the convention center, we truly could have a unique opportunity to have one of the largest facilities in a mid-market city in the Southeast. So I think we would, again, we're not competing, there would be competition, but we would have a niche market, which I think is important. If we're going to do something, let's make sure it's niche. Let's make sure we're smart about it. And so we leave a lot of tourism on the table often, but we can't accommodate it. We don't have the space now to host big conventions. And so I think the data that I've seen help support that. It's very compelling, quite frankly. Mark?
So I wanted to ask Howard DeBarr this last week because he would have been the only one who actually understood this. But can you talk a little bit about the tax incentive for commercial and corporate development in Columbia that the city and the county got together and created? Because it has spurred a lot of growth in our town, and I don't think people actually even understand what's going on about that.
Yeah, so they came out with an agreement that they would both support tax incentives, this one in Richland County and the city of Columbia, if a project was over $30 million. And there was a component of that $30 million that could be a public use, whether it's a parking garage, whether it's a park. That was left undefined, quite frankly. And that's a little bit of a hiccup because it's not written anywhere. It just says to a public use, which is open to interpretation. There are 3 or 4 projects like that that are being considered that are close to permitting. But they wanted to find some quote-unquote announcement effect to spur those projects. Because I know there are 3 or 4 that are about ready to go. Whether they all, I think they're trying to work through those ambiguities right now, quite frankly. So, it really was big projects. I think one of the things we need to look at is how do we know that there's considerable cost of doing business in Columbia and Richland County. And I think there's a valid question is there some other incentives for the smaller? If that's a home run, do we need singles? Do we need smaller investments to happen? Because the smaller and more prolonged growth in small businesses will help bring the larger businesses as well. So I think we need to start thinking not just the big projects, but also looking at some smaller options as well. All the way back.
Yes, sir. I have a concern. When I was watching NBC News and I saw where the starting salary for teachers, you know, we talk about all the need for employees and people that are educated. And our starting salary for teachers is a mere $35,000. I would challenge anybody in this room to live on $35,000 a year, and yet we seem to not make a whole lot of progress. And I'm not throwing the school districts under the bus by any means. I'm simply saying.
Yeah, I think the average. I think the average, I'm not going to put them on the spot, but that's the starting salary. I think the average is $51,000 for teachers.
But I'm saying, starting salary, fresh out of college, you can't live on $35,000.
Well, I don't know what the new, yes sir, I'll defer to Dr. Witherspoon.
To that question, Carl, the starting salary for Richland 1 is $49,200, and across the Midlands, it's up there in the state. That's what the state does, but each locality adds to that. So it is more than 35.
Okay, all right, so they had wrong information on the news, is that what you're saying?
Well, that was the state.
That's statewide.
That's statewide, and then the localities add to it.
All right, hold on, Elliot. Go ahead.
All of these issues you brought up really go back to elected leaders, you know, because these are the people who make the decisions. And I appreciate what you all are doing to try to vet, and all of us to get candidates in front of folks. Is there more we can do to try to get people with vision to run, and also get a vetting process such that everybody can see them, and then encourage people to vote? Because if we don't fix that, none of these other things are going to get fixed either.
Well said. So election tomorrow, we've got a school board election on New Year's Eve, and then we have 6 county council seats up next year.
Why New Year's Eve?
State law, it's really a conundrum, quite frankly, but it was supposed to be a Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is actually a state holiday.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve is not, but you can only move back.
My only concern is if you're going to give everybody a good chance, give them a good day.
We've been in contact with our Judiciary Committee at the House, but there's nothing they can do about it. So it's legit. The date is the date, but their hands. I've talked to the Richland County Election Commission and the State Election Commission. Their hands are tied.
What about absentee? How much sooner can you do it?
1 month. So absentees. So at the 1st of December you can vote. So we have time for one more. Elliot, hand up. All right, one more.
Just a quick question. I keep hearing about the aerospace and technology industry coming, looking to make Columbia this region's hub. Is there any truth?
No, I think absolutely. You've got a considerable amount of dollars being spent in Charleston and Greenville on aerospace. You have a little bit here around the university, but you're not going to see any manufacturing. And that's not going to happen in Richland County. It could, Lexington County taxes are going up at a faster clip than Richland County right now. So it is not, it's very, very challenging to get a manufacturing facility in a capital city just because of the dynamics and the tax structure. What I do think is you'll see opportunities in Newberry and Fairfield and Kershaw and Orangeburg counties for that. Somewhere tied close enough to the university, but tied close enough to the port, and the other F-16s are being built in Greenville and Boeing down in Charleston. So I think we can pick up some residual. We got to play to our strength. Our strength is not necessarily manufacturing. It's going to be research. It's going to be service. It's going to be the knowledge-based economy. So I think if we can cater to the technology jobs, that's better suited for our wheelhouse. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Carl. We have a token of appreciation. You,
We're spending time with us.
you are one busy man. And 4 girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Your beard might turn gray overnight. Okay, not next week, but the week after. President-elect Mason?
We have Rob Thunderbird coming to talk about the use of the Clark funds and how well they're being utilized for research and all.
Thank you. And now, let me get you out of here and close the song. Is Rusty?